Hello, everyone. This is Editor Jonathan, coming from the future to just before everything starts up, give you an idea of this podcast. We decided to pair with random video game clips that we will do as we play games each week. We hang out with each other. So that is what you'll be seeing on the screen as you listen to this podcast. I hope you enjoy. And also, I should mention at the very end, there's a little bit section where a friend of ours, Corellia, he hops in for just like the very, very end of it. Just to hear how things are going. And so we hope to have him on in future weeks. And with that said, I hope that you will enjoy this first podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GPU podcast, Gamers Process the Universe. And I'm Jonathan. Joined with me here is Shane.
Good evening and good morning, afternoon, and good evening to any possible listeners.
So good evening twice, but we'll go with it.
Good evening to you, and then good evening to listeners.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I see it.
Yeah.
So this podcast, this first one of hopefully many to come, because we'll stick with it, I swear. And
Definitely.
This podcast is meant to be kind of a way for us to talk about new tech news, new events that happen, games we enjoy, games we're looking forward to, just in any and all hobbies and things that we as a group want to be passionate about and talk about with our friends and people that we know.
Sort of like an archive of thoughts.
Yeah, like it's basically an archive of everything. So we hope that it's enjoyed by people, and hopefully we can continue doing this continuously so it actually has merit to it and enough backing behind it over time. All right, so today we're going to be joined by Jordan, one of our other friends, and he'll be throughout the whole show. Just trying out first time, seeing how this goes, and if it goes terribly, we can adjust things. If it goes great, then hey, we aced it first try.
We'll figure it out as we go, basically.
All right, Shane, you want to bring Jordan in?
Yes, sir.
Jordan, do you want to say anything about yourself or in general being our first guest on the show?
I don't know.
You like video games, right?
Who doesn't?
So yeah, good start.
That works for me. I think that's a good start off point. So going in, quick brief rundown of what we'll be covering today. We have the Nvidia 30 series and all the news that goes along with that. We have the AMD 5000 series that got announced earlier last week. Destiny 2 Beyond Light expansion comes out next month, and then should time permit it, we will go into horror games and movies that are a seasonal thing that people go through each year. However, that might be a thing that we'll cover next week instead.
At the time of this recording, it's October 11th, so it's topical for us.
Yeah, and it'll still be topical next week too.
And then a year from now, but not any of the time in between.
Not any time ever between. All right, so jumping into this, Nvidia 30 series. I'm gonna just give a general rundown of what Nvidia claims with their 30 series and what has been going on with it. So Nvidia, they have given out the 30 series, and it's supposed to have higher performance than anything before it. The marks that they were meeting claimed that the 3070 through 3090 all beat out the previous 2080 Ti, which was listed at $1,200, which is crazy because the 3070 is listed for $500.
That is pretty crazy, honestly.
Yeah, this is the largest jump in terms of cost for graphics card that has happened in quite a while. The also performance that it's granting, you have the 3070 has 8 gigabytes of memory basis, GDDR6 memory. Meanwhile, the 3080 and 3090 will have GDDR6X, which is even faster processing power. And then the CUDA cores, I don't actually know what those particularly do. All I know is there's a ridiculous amount of them, and this is more than any of the previous series, with the 3070 having 5,888 and the 3090 having up to 10,496.
That's a big jump in numbers. That's like twice as much.
To answer your question, John, CUDA cores are a parallel processor, just like your CPU might be a dual or quad core device.
Gotcha.
And NVIDIA GPUs host several hundred or 1,000 of those cores.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So, and obviously these the numbers behind them reflect also how much you're paying for them. So 3090, $1,500. 3080, $700, and the 3070, $500. 3070 at the time of this recording had not come out yet, and that's actually interesting because originally the 3070 was supposed to come out 4 days from now, October 15th. However, due to the 3080 and 3090 demand issues, they pushed it back till the end of October 29th.
And in fairness to Nvidia, they're not the only tech company having issues with supply and demand right now.
That's true. But the biggest point that people are pointing or really focusing on in all this and why it's made so much news recently is Nvidia claims that even though they are giving out these that they brought to the table these insanely good graphics cards, because honestly for the price for what you're paying and what you're getting, it's a really good option if we're looking at upgrading at all. And so Nvidia's response whenever people were not able to get cards at launch day was, we did not expect this amount of customers wanting cars. They didn't expect the influx of consumers.
I feel like they should have expected it, just like Sony should have expected as many people trying to buy the PS5. And it's the same problem over and over and over and over and over. It's just they don't want to overstock, so they drastically understock, and it's a whole debacle. But at some point, as a consumer, we have to expect that and just plan ahead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as of this recording right now, there still are not any 3080s and 3090s that you can easily get or acquire. And they were at this October, and it was end of September that they first came out. So it's been a few weeks, and there's still nothing that came in since the original launch. And then there was one subsequent, as far as I know, Micro Centers got a second shipment that came in, but they were sold out the same minute they were brought in.
So like people actually picked it up and left it to get home?
Yeah. So whenever the 3090 launched, because 3090 launched a week later. So the day that the 3090 launched, 3080s and 3090s came in after the initial process was all taken care of. And they had 3080s that came on 3090 launch day, and they were all instantly sold to people who were waiting in line for the chance. There wasn't a guarantee that they even had the cards, because at this point this was the 3090 launch. 3080s were already sold out. But this was the chance for people who waited in line for 2+ days at Micro Centers. They were just waiting for the chance that maybe something came in that shipment, that the 3090s came in.
Yeah, I find that a bit ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like, I understand, like, you really want this and everything, but waiting 2 or more days at a place, just camping out there, I just find to be a bit crazy.
I agree. That's absolutely ridiculous. Like, because these are the kind of people that would obviously already have a rig at home to play their games on. And it's not like there's any games that have released that can only play on these cards, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
So
there's
Correct.
nothing like that.
I feel like they're creating a demand where there isn't one almost.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's a good card for a good price, but I don't know if it's that much of a hassle to get it. I'd rather wait.
Well,
months.
granted, there was a line of 100+ people, and I will say, so this is a video I watched on Bitwit, and so Bitwit, he was interviewing people the day of the launch for the 3090, and there was 100+ people in line for all of 20 cards available for the 3090s, and the top those people that received those cards had been waiting in line since Monday, and the cards came in Thursday.
Good grief!
There are better ways to spend your vacation time.
For sure. And you'd think the employees would say, hey, like, we've got a tops 20 of these. So if you're not in the first 20 people in line, save the time, go home, play with your kids.
What was interesting, though, was the video was focusing on how the employees did not do anything to control the lines or control how the system about who was there first went into place. Rather, it was the people who were waiting in line for the whole week that they created their own government, so to speak. Whereas you had to check in once every hour, and there was like a time window inside that check-in where you had to be present. but then you were allowed to go elsewhere and do other stuff and then come back as long as you checked in every hour.
That is actually really interesting, especially because gamers are already known for self-regulation. That's why the ESRB exists.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a tiny
So,
little microcosm of that.
and it
Mutual
wasn't
understanding.
just, it was the 3090s and the 3080s. And at one point, apparently, someone came in on like, so they'd already been waiting there 2 days, and then someone showed up the third night and they just claimed a spot online. And people were like, wait, you can't just claim a spot online. You have to like write your name down on this thing. It was like, why is that a rule? And a whole thing broke out where eventually, because it was majority rule in that case, the guy was basically told to, he eventually conceded, but he was pretty angry about it.
He can be angry, but he just has to. What's the
But
word?
that, but that's the thing
Abide.
though, is he accepted their rule on it, because technically they didn't have any claim other than this is your spot at this time and that's what you're claiming. Like there wasn't any backing from Micro Center or anyone else.
Yeah, but if there's a mob of people around you that are saying this is the way it is,
You don't really want to be the guy who says no, it's not, and then get mob justice.
you don't know how many people of those have guns or knives in their pockets. Because if they're willing to wait 3 days, they're pretty crazy
Well,
already.
assuming that was in the Midwest
It was not.
or
This
the
was over
South.
in California.
Oh, none of them had guns then.
Is that a rule in California?
No, it's just my remark about Californians.
So there's a chance, anyway.
But we just
Probably.
isolated an entire demographic.
I don't care. That state has problems.
Yeah, it does. I'm not gonna pretend like I like
But that is a
California.
topic for another day.
Anyway, the point being, you don't want to face mob justice.
Yes,
Very true.
exactly. So that all goes on in Nvidia. So that all led to Nvidia seeing how poorly the 3080 and 3090 launches went, and that's why we're waiting until October 29th for the 3070 to come out.
So you're planning on getting one, as soon as possible for a new rig, sometime in November for Black Friday, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna be having a new rig that'll be fully bought Black Friday.
Are you going to try to find one of these in store, or are you going to try to order it online, or what's your plan?
So my plan, see, I'm trying to figure out, because I'm getting the 3070, which is like, it hasn't been released yet. I don't have all the issues of release date stuff. However, Nvidia has already proven that their site is really screwed up when it comes to getting the online notification and then going in. People were notified and it was already sold out when they showed up online, like when they went to the website. So there was problems with that, and so I'm trying to, I'm from my end, I'm gonna try and get the Founders Edition, because from everything I've seen benchmark wise for people when they were looking at the cards and all the issues that have come up. Oh, that's one other thing with the 3080 cards. Some cards were crashing.
Is there a refund or anything, like a warranty?
So it wasn't that they actually went in and released drivers so that the cards won't crash anymore.
Oh, so it's just a software thing.
Well, partially software, but it was also Nvidia has this baseline spec that all their companies, so like Asus and Acer and all Gigabyte, all these other manufacturers for their graphics cards, they release them the specs and they have a minimum spec requirement to then produce the card, right? Like they have to meet these criteria. A lot of companies base their baseline off of the minimum requirement. And so they created these cards with the bare minimum, when in reality, if you wanted a card that can be overclocked and a card that can do these things, you needed something better than that requirement set.
So they set their bar too low for the minimum, basically.
Yeah.
It's all about how to make it as cheaply as possible.
So there's these transistors that they opted for, these cheaper transistor options for a lot of these card makers, and that was the big problem, was these transistors couldn't handle the loads that were being pushed in them, so they had to build drivers that would limit the capacity.
And we're talking about third-party card makers like, I don't know, is Seagate a card maker?
I don't think Seagate's a card maker, but Gigabyte and EVGA, MSI.
Yeah. So
yeah, they're all.
And Asus, that's who mine's made by, is Asus.
They're the ones that are just trying to find where the lowest bar is and just barely pass over it.
Yeah,
how
so
can
they
we
can
make
sell
the
it
most
for
money?
a competitive rate. So that's
Because
what's going on with.
if you see two cards that say the same thing with a different logo on it, you're gonna go for the cheaper one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the principle of it.
So they're just fighting each other for the lowest bar.
Though I will say the one thing with graphics cards, in my opinion, is it's going for the cheapest one. If you were going for the same series and you see one's cheaper, one's not, like look at an on-run review for it and determine, is it because this card can be overclocked better? Is that why you have to pay a little bit more? Or is that card more stable? Does it run quieter? These are all things that people factor in when they're building PCs.
Not me personally, because I don't think I'm ever going to deal with overclocking. The very word makes me visualize magma pouring out of my computer tower.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of messing with the stuff I've put in there and spent a lot of money on the
Okay,
off
so
chance that I screw something up.
but the bare minimum, like, I mean, noise would be a factor at least a little bit. Like if one card will run quieter than the other one.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a good one.
the headphones I'm wearing are pretty noise canceling, so
I mean, yes, noise
meh.
canceling is a good thing, but I mean, if you're just running a rig and you just want to make sure that you have a quiet rig, that's something that people will factor in.
Yeah.
Anyways, my point on all this is, from what I've seen with the 3080 and 3090, there was a reason where a lot of people went third-party cards with the previous gens, with 20 series and with the 10 series graphics cards.
Because they
A
were
lot of
cheaper.
people, yeah, they would get them because they're cheaper, because they would run better, because Nvidia's cards weren't good at cooling as much either. Well, this current gen, everything that I've seen so far, the Founders Edition as an Nvidia's card that they build in-house is actually a really competitive card this time around.
So
They
is that what the
changed,
Founders Editions are? It's ones made by Nvidia themselves.
yes.
And they
Okay.
sell it in stores along with the other branded ones.
Actually, so that's the interesting thing about this. Because they had so much issues with selling out online with the 30 series, uh, for on their actual online store because of scalpers and bots buying up all these cards, they for the first time ever have opted to sell in an actual store. They're selling their Founders Editions at Best Buy.
So
But only
they,
Best
but
Buy?
Only Best Buy. So previously, before the 30 series, you could only get an Nvidia Founders Edition by buying it on the Nvidia store online.
Interesting. That's one way to fight scalpers and
Mhm.
bots.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting. I might try to go to a Best Buy and buy the 3070 series if it's like going to be out like beginning of the day right then. And I'm hoping it's the most consumer friendly price point right now because the 3060 has not been announced yet. But I'm hoping that it's going to not be as crazy, though knowing my luck, it probably will be pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've been to Best Buy on a Black Friday, and that is not somewhere I ever feel like returning to.
I only go to
I
Best
can tell
Buy
you, any retail store on a Black Friday is hell. I know from experience.
But one that's with like a brand new, what's the word? Not landmark release. Maybe that is the word. I don't know. Landmark release of a super fancy budget friendly card exclusive to a certain store. That's like 3 double whammies all in a row.
Now, granted,
You can
it's
see
not
the
like the
videos
Founders
of what it
Edition
would
is
be
the
like.
only option right now. Like when the cards come out, you can get a third party card the same day. So it's I'm getting the Founders Edition because I trust Nvidia to build a card so it will run more than I trust the third parties right now.
Makes sense. Straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yeah. So that's the big point of why I'm going for 30 series. Because like I was already planning on building a new rig before the 30 series was even announced, but then it came out. I was like, $500 for a card that's better than 2080 Ti? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
And one of the main reason you're trying to get one of these is because you're trying to future proof for your VR games, right?
Yeah, so I'm wanting to be able to run once I'm all debt free. March next year, my next major purchase is probably going to get a Valve Index, and I want to be able to run everything smooth as can be.
And VR games are pretty intensive, so you want to get the biggest and best you can.
Yeah, and if I had the extra cash and like, well, I'll put it this way: 500 is the max I'm willing to put into one component on my computer. That just seems like that's more than enough.
Yeah, I don't know why you would want to spend more than that. I mean, I can see why you would want to, but
I mean, the 3080 looks really nice, but yeah, I don't see the value added
mm,
personally at that price point.
Yeah, that's
darn.
That's why I stopped at the RTX 2070 instead of the 2080.
I ran out of popcorn.
So yeah, my question actually, this is the part where I was curious about your thoughts, Shane. Since you're a 2070 owner, what are your thoughts with the 30 series and like after you've seen them all come out, having a 2070? Because I mean, you're not as bad off as like the 2080 Ti owners. A lot of them were up in arms when it first got announced because it's like I just spent $1,200 on this card and now it's obsolete compared to these.
Yeah, I feel bad for those people, but at the same time, you gotta think about the future when you're buying cards like that.
That
If
is kind of why I didn't buy top of the line when I built my computer. I went a couple levels lower because I figured if I buy top of the line now, give it like a year or so, it's going to be obsolete by whatever comes out next. I'm going to feel like crap.
yeah, so it's hard to buy a top of the line when
Top of the line don't stay top of the line for very long.
and if a couple tiers below that is going to do everything you want anyway.
Exactly.
So, and especially around this time of year, because this is when all the AMDs and Nvidias announce their upcoming products, and then as soon as they announce their new products, the old ones are going to drop in price.
Yeah, that's what a lot of tech advisors and people have been like. This is the reality of working with tech. You're going to be getting something brand new and it's awesome and everything, but as soon as the new announcement comes out, it becomes obsolete, and that's just technology keeps on rolling over.
So to go back to your question, what do I think about the 30 series? I think they're really cool, and if I hadn't built a brand new computer about, I don't know, 14, 15 months ago, I would definitely be more interested in them. But I have a RTX 2070 Super right now, and it does everything I need it to do. So any purchase of that sort would be a complete waste of money, honestly, for myself. Obviously, you're in a different situation that would benefit from it. So
Yeah.
Godspeed to you,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah, thanks. I'm hoping to that leads into actually our next subject. Unless you guys have anything to add about the 30 series.
Didn't you want to talk about some of the stuff about them?
What stuff about them specific?
Well, I know you asked earlier what a DLSS was.
Oh yeah, DLSS. Did anyone look into that?
I'm
Yeah,
reading it. It's deep
that's
learning
actually,
super sampling.
that's actually not specific to the new 3080s. That was like a year ago. They introduced it with the RTX
Ah.
20 series.
It looks to me like it's a way to improve FPS.
FPS, graphics, whole lot of stuff.
It's basically AI learning to boost frame rates. And
Gotcha.
that's as much as I really know, because it's a little
That's
bit.
that's about as much as they really say actually on the webpage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another interesting thing about the 30 series. It's the first card to officially, this is a with an asterisk, officially support 8K gaming.
That's a very, very niche audience.
I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's also the 3090, which is a $1,500 graphics card, so it's already niche.
And most people,
as far as I know, 8K displays aren't even like on a consumer market.
not really.
Yeah, no, not really.
And if they were, they would be prohibitively expensive.
Then
Yes.
most games I don't even think right now can run an 8, like say they can run an 8K. So
Yeah, the games would also have to support it. So
I will say though, the upside of this is if it can support 8K, 4K is not hard at all.
that's true.
Its scaling is like you're exponentially scaling from 4K to 8K, or it's at least doubling. Maybe it's not exponential, but then you're running 4K. Well, think about if an average consumer is running on 1080p. Oh man, the FPS rates that you are pulling off.
true.
Like you can run probably a 240 hertz monitor and not even blink twice.
I feel like that's the way future game development and hardware development should go, is targeting frame rate instead of resolution, because at some point it's good enough. Like, I know people probably said this about the N64. It's like, it's real life, but I really feel like we're going to hit that diminishing returns point where we should probably focus on a frame rate at this point.
Yeah.
I'm honestly wondering whenever we're going to hit the max of Moore's law, so to speak, which Moore's law is like you're going to keep on decreasing the capacitor and transistor size by half every so many years technologies will just keep on increase. The price will be cut, the size will be cut until it's super small. But eventually, you do hit a max out point. Like, you can't build something that's smaller than atoms.
What about quarks? You
Theoretically,
manipulate the quarks to be transistors.
Theoretically, but I think we're getting off subject here with how deep that is.
Yeah, and I don't really even know what I'm talking about anymore. So
I know what you're talking about because I took quantum and relativity physics class,
that
and
sounds like
that is why we should not continue on because not everyone in the world has done that.
In fact, very few, relatively, have done that.
Yes, you're correct. So, all right, with that, I think we're gonna rack up this segment on Nvidia, and going on with me building a new PC. Let's look at AMD Ryzen 5000 series.
Which generation is that?
AMD Ryzen 5000 is the third gen for the Ryzen CPUs by AMD.
Okay, so they came out with second gen last year, and that's what I ended up with.
I believe so, yes. So Ryzen was basically AMD's model to try and catch up to Intel because for the longest time, myself included, and this is why 5000 series is a big deal, but everyone has viewed Ryzen as, or AMD in general, as the cheap alternative to Intel. You get more threads, you have better productivity application, but it's not as good as gaming.
And that all changed last
Intel.
year with the second gen.
Well, that all changed last year with second gen, and maybe you could inform me a bit more about that because I don't know much about second gen in general and how much it impacted. I just know the new news, which is absolutely insane to me. So maybe give us a little background if you can.
I'm guessing the new news is just continuation of the old news, which is to say that second gen basically made it affordable to have the same amount of. Man, I really should have probably done more research, but basically, I want to say it's the amount of cores per dollar that you're buying. Listeners, be aware I am completely what's the word for this? Talking out of
Your butt.
He's speculating like it's his best guess, educated guess.
Yeah, I'm speculating based off of my own logic. There we go. So basically, I want to say it's like 6-core versus quad core in Intel. At a consumer level, we're not talking about Xeon processors here. We're talking about Gen i9, I think it was at the time.
Yeah, i9 is the max out for Intel.
Yeah, so it's basically i9 versus Ryzen 5, and this was last year.
Really, Ryzen 5? Ryzen 9 is the highest point. They built theirs based off of Intel to compare, so to speak.
It's Ryzen 9 now, right?
Well, Ryzen 9 was second gen. Ryzen 9 3900 series.
Huh.
So that's processing. Okay, here's a good way to figure this out. What current processor are you running, Shane?
Let me pull up the thing that tells me. It is a AMD Ryzen 5 3600X 6-core processor.
Okay, so you have a Ryzen 5 that basically runs almost everything you need it to run. I imagine you probably don't have any issues really CPU wise.
It runs everything I've needed it to run. I don't think CPU has ever even been close to maxed out.
Meanwhile, you have me currently, and I am with the i5 7400, which is basically probably 3, 4, maybe 5 years old now. I think it's 5 whenever I checked it.
That's a long time in tech terms.
Yeah, it's a long time, and it's also very much I've hit its limit. I'm pretty sure.
Whenever games are chugging, do you ever hit Control-Alt-Delete to look at the task manager?
I often have task manager pulled up on a separate page just to check everything, and
see if things are maxing out.
Let me put it this way: I was at 100% the whole time we were playing Titanfall 2.
That's bad, dude.
Were you dropping frames? Because I feel like if you're at 100%, you've got to be dropping somewhere.
I think I was maybe dropping some frames. What happens typically is it's not like 100% is I say the whole time, but it's fluctuating between 70 to 100 consistently. And I'll randomly sometimes games will freeze on me, and games will crash on me.
Yeah, that's not what you want. You never want it to hit 100 if you're playing games.
Very true.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. So the i5 7400 came out in 2017, beginning of 2017.
2017?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So this was i5 back in 2017. This was, I think, roughly the same time that AMD first came out with the Ryzen series. If I remember correctly. Let me actually look that up.
I want to say AMD second generation basically was cutting the price point of or matching the power of, Intel's top i9 at the time, I want to say. And it was for $200 less, I think, thereabouts.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And
So Ryzen came out in 2017, February 22nd, 2017. So it was right after Intel came out with the current Core I run with.
it was a good first attempt anyway.
Yeah, no, Ryzen did a lot of things that a lot of people were happy with AMD. Now, let's get into what AMD 5000 series is, because I'm not someone who likes to spend a lot of money. And what I was looking at getting was the AMD Ryzen 7 Zen Gen 2. So it would have been the 38,000 or 3800X, and that was going to be about $319. Now jump ahead to what is Ryzen 5000 series. The Ryzen 7 for the 5000 series is going to be $449, I believe.
So like 150 more dollars.
Yeah. However, here's the big point of what they were making. And granted, no benchmarks have come out yet, so this isn't like we have a 100% guarantee. I mean, obviously, any tech company is gonna show off their best case scenarios and these things, and like,
Yeah, you've got to wait for YouTubers to really put it through their paces that are not sponsored or trying to sell them to you.
yeah, you gotta get third party checking
Input.
everything. But according to AMD, it's a 19% increase capacity, like their power and usage. It's 19% better than the last gen.
That's a lot of percentage.
It's a
That's
decent jump.
pretty much unheard of from everything I've seen, as everyone's saying normally you see about single digit percentage improvements between generations. And that's nearly 20% improvement, which is,
Which means somebody figured something out.
yeah, no, they changed their architecture almost entirely. And it's according, so let's just off the bat, everything, this is AMD only. Clearly, we already stated that, but I just want to make sure everyone understands when I read off these numbers. It's apparently, according to this, at a basically 1080 resolution for gaming, their cores from the last gen, it's a 50% increase in League of Legends, 33 in PUBG. It's got 5% increase in Battlefield 5. CSGO, it's 46% increase. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is 28%, and Ashes of Singularity is 19%.
That's an interesting spread of games to pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't even list everything. There's a few more games options there, but these are all things that, like, I mean, CS:GO and League of Legends make sense. Like, the League of Legends is a heavy CPU based game. It's not really graphics intensive. And then CS:GO has always been a benchmark game.
Very true.
But why outdate a game like PUBG?
I don't really know why they chose that. They also did Dota 2, in all fairness. So they've got a wide.
It's outdated, but the player base is still with it.
Yeah.
Dota's still a popular game.
Whereas PUBG kind of
Yeah, you would think they do Fortnite or something.
maybe. I guess the graphics are a bit different than Fortnite though, because cartoony versus semi-realism.
Yeah.
So anyways, with these, so they actually haven't announced a Ryzen 3 for the Gen 3, but they have the Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7, Ryzen 9, and the Ryzen 9 5950. So those are their current model bases, and the claim for them this time around, the 5950 is supposed to be 2.8 times better than Intel i9, the current gen.
Better at what specifically?
Gaming.
Because I've
It's
heard a lot in the
single
past
thread gaming.
I've heard a lot in the past that if all you want to do ever with your computer is play games, then Intel still is king. But if you want to do literally anything else, the extra cores that AMD provides helps you multitask.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you want to also stream the game, go with AMD because the extra cores will help separate the processes and multitask better.
Yeah. So that's their claim, is they officially have beaten Intel in basically everything.
So what you're saying, Shane, is I should probably go with an AMD when I upgrade if I want to stream and play the game, make it run a little smoother.
Pretty much, yeah. Especially if what John is saying is true about AMD now fully having eclipsed Intel in every way.
I'm gonna have to look into that when I upgrade.
Just make sure your motherboard's chipset is compatible because Intel and AMD have different chipsets.
Yeah, you can't use the
I
same.
might have to change the motherboard too then, won't
Yeah,
I?
you have to change the motherboard if you swap chips. Like there's only one or two motherboards out there that have cross compatibility.
I might as well just build a second computer and use this one for something else.
That's what I did.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
been 3-4 years since I made this. Yes.
But it's
I don't
just
know.
it floors me how much, like, I mean, the reviewers, Linus Tech Tips, Bitwit, Gamers Nexus, they all were looking at this stuff and they're like, I mean, Gamers Nexus is the most, I think, apathetic about it. Like they were very much skeptical of the numbers they were seeing. And I
Because
honestly
they were
can't,
straight from AMD.
yeah. And I can't fault anyone for being skeptical of them. I honestly, I look at them, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a little insane. But at the same time, if this is what they're coming out with, and like even if it's half of what they say, half as good, they still beat Intel.
I wonder if they are going to run hotter than Intel. Like, are you going to need
They
extra cooling setups to compensate for the extra power?
Well, here's the thing. They're doing this at all. So, previous gen, the Ryzen 9, Ryzen 7, all of them were like the higher end ones. 105 watts was the power draw. This gen, same power draw.
So not even a big deal.
Yeah, no,
So it should run about the same heat then.
what they claim they did to make it so much faster is they adjusted how the cores interact with each other. So previously it was, if you had say 8 cores, 4 cores were given 16 megabytes of cache, and then another 4 cores were given 16 megabytes of cache. What they did, they claim, is they combined the cache together so that all cores have access to all cache at all times. So now it's a 132 megabyte size cache, and then all 8 cores connected to that.
I'm not computer engineerology enough compli what's the word?
Can you put
You're
it in
not
layman's terms?
Yeah, I don't really know what that means. I just kind of take you at your word.
basically so splitting up the cores and everything, that makes it take longer to talk between cores and makes it longer to run processes and do things. And so what they did when they combined it all together was basically cut down any of that time that existed between talking with each other, because they now can talk to anyone, or like everyone can talk to everyone.
So they made the cores touch as opposed to have room between them
Yeah,
in terms of communications.
yeah, exactly. Um, and then the other thing was, according to them, and this is something I don't know much about benchmarks other than like looking at tech reviewers and seeing what they got for benchmarks and stuff. But Nvidia is claiming that the first 600 or first desktop CPU to beat the 600 benchmark for this rendering process, which the i9 did it at 560, and they beat it at 630, which higher number is much better.
If I've learned one thing as a gamer, higher number is better.
Yes.
Big number, big better.
But yeah, so
Number go
that
up.
that's just like, I mean, granted, this is all still like we don't have proof, we don't have guarantees. But if this is the case, this is a really big deal for everyone trying to build a desktop computer and trying to decide what to do next.
But
Very true.
don't go pre-ordering. Let reviewers have their crack
Oh,
at it.
yeah, no. There's no
Yeah,
way
give it a bit to come out before you.
So all these cores and stuff, they will be released November 5th. So expect reviews and stuff to be coming out or end of October and like around the time when the cores are released.
Just in time for Black Friday.
Yeah, this Black Friday, I'm actually a little concerned on my end because like I was hoping to get a bunch of stuff for pretty cheap, and maybe I can find a good deal on a CPU core because the new series, like the new line is coming out, and they're just trying to get rid of the old series. But I still am not sure if I'm going to get away with that. So, anyways, that's what's going on with the 5000 series, and it just when I watched the live stream because I actually was interested in it, so I watched the live stream, and it blew my mind with like my limited tech knowledge on computers because like I'm working on building one, so I'm learning all I can about everything, and like as someone who hasn't even decided to specifically buy the second gen, I'm like, man, could I maybe opt to buy the third gen Ryzen 5 instead, which would be the same price point? Would it do as good for me with that 90% increase versus a Ryzen 7 from the previous gen? It's just that's the things I have to weigh and like figure out what the next best step is.
Another thing you'd have to consider is the same motherboard going to be compatible with both the second and third gen, or do you have to get a more
Yes.
expensive motherboard as well?
So second and third gen share the same architecture. It's the same motherboard.
Okay, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, that's not an issue. That was a big announcement. They're using the 7 nanometer architecture. The Zen 4, which it's just crazy to me. They're making it 5 nanometer architecture. So there will be an architecture change for the next gen to come out.
To visualize a nanometer, what else is 5 nanometers?
Oh, let me just look up something real quick.
Because nano, I know it means small, but like it's so small that I don't have a way to visualize it, you know?
So strand of human DNA is 2.5 nanometers in diameter.
So like 2 strands of DNA put together.
Yep.
That's pretty
Tiny.
small.
Human hair is 80,000 to 100,000 nanometers wide.
How do you work with something that small? How is that even?
I don't know.
Machines, man.
At some point, it's
Machines.
magic.
Well,
Yeah,
magic is simply science and technology that we don't understand yet.
I don't understand it. That's for sure.
So, but here's
Ooh,
the
magic.
crazy thing: people are making such a big deal because Intel is still using 14 nanometer architecture.
So that's going back to what we said earlier about changing how the transistors talk to each other.
The cores and everything talk to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, the cores are closer. In
So
terms of nanometers.
I honestly looking at all this stuff and like, yeah, nanometers like so tiny, but at the same time, looking at this, like if people are making a big deal, is like you're still using the 14 nanometer size chipsets and stuff. Like basically what this adds up to is Intel has been resting on the laurels and they did not see this coming.
They've never really had competition, so
Like AMD decided like way back in 2017 or earlier whenever they first came out with Ryzen that we're gonna work and get better and get better and get better. So to put in perspective, like you said it yourself, Shane, like maybe AMD wasn't on top for gaming until this gen, but they were still on top in most things.
the fact that people know their name is testament to how good they were doing even back then.
AMD has 25% market share on Steam games.
25?
25% of Steam game users use AMD chipsets.
It's a decent number.
Does that mean 75 is Intel, or is there
Yes.
like a third dark horse company that's out
Well, I
there?
mean, you could get like the Chinese knockoffs and stuff for things, but yeah, basically it's Intel or AMD. So Intel has 75% of gamers, but AMD's been increasing steadily.
And that's including people who don't really know or care, and they just buy pre-builts that probably come with Intel. Honestly,
I mean, yeah. No, I mean, that's very true in that sense. So it's crazy to me how much is going into what AMD has done, because technically they didn't have to make Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 3 this good. They could have just met Intel and been a fair competitor because their price points are roughly the same.
But this shows that they're actually wanting to be better and to draw in Intel's customers by being like, hey, look, our stuff a little bit better.
And they said Zen 4 is on track. As in, based off of what we've seen with Zen 1 through 3, it should come out next year.
honestly, I think if they want to compete, they have to be better because Intel has that brand recognition. If you have two things that are comparable in spec and price, but Intel and you've used it before, you're just gonna go with Intel.
I mean, I honestly, until you guys told me about AMD, and like, I wasn't on the AMD train until you, my brother, and multiple people told me AMD was better. Like, it took that, so I can understand that side of it. But then, I mean, with this gen, I'm just referring to Zen 4. They've already proved themselves with this gen if everything is as they say it is. Like, they've beat them, they've won. People will start moving over because everyone who's a gamer and interested in anything like this will tell everyone they know which is better.
So it'll be interesting to see those Steam percentages a year from now. After
Yes,
dust
and
is
it'll be even more interesting to see what happens with Zen 4 because they don't have to. If Intel doesn't answer and doesn't come up with something amazing to come up with the next 2 years, they don't have to release Zen 4 to still win. But they're going to.
What's the point of beating your opponent if you can't leave them thoroughly behind?
Yeah.
Buried.
So, all right. I think we've talked about the tech news for long enough. In fact, we might have hit an hour already at this point.
I think we're about
About a half hour
yeah,
ish.
When did we
maybe
start it?
maybe
I
three
thought we
quarters.
started before it. Anyways, so yeah, we're
Why
good
said
for now
ish?
at least, I think.
What was the next one?
The next topic we have is Destiny 2 Beyond Light. And that was released in November. I believe November 5th, if I'm not
Give me
mistaken.
a second. Give me a second.
November 10th.
Yep.
What's the price point on it?
$75, I think.
To pre-order.
Did you just say $75 to me?
70.
Yes. 70. I
It's
thought it was
70.
75.
No, it's
70.
70.
70. It's $70, but not only are you getting the big new DLC stuff, you are getting the season passes for the next year.
Which is $10 each.
Which there's 4 seasons per year, pretty much. They break it into like about 3-month chunks, roughly.
So roughly, you're paying $30 for the new DLC and then $40 for the year pass.
Is there a way to skip out on the year pass? Because like,
I
what if
mean,
you
you
don't
could.
care about the story content?
Well, we're just referring to pre-ordering. So
Yeah, right. Yes, there is a way. So basically, the thing we're talking about right now is the deluxe edition that comes with that pass and a bunch of other stuff. There is also a normal edition, just Destiny 2 Beyond Light, that is $40.
I can see why Destiny 2 went free to play. Because that's a hard price point if you already bought the game.
Yeah. Which is why it's a. And I will mention this: when it went free to play, I was salty as hell because I bought the full game right out the gate, and then it was like,
play like 3 years after it came out first, right?
yeah,
So I mean, that's a pretty long time.
yeah, it was a long time. But after it went free to play, I was like, well, that kind of sucks.
But
But
the
at the
flip
same
side
time, it
is,
brought in a lot more people to play the game.
and myself included.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you play Destiny and you find out you like Destiny, like I bought every DLC a week later. So
He did. He bought it very quickly.
I was their target demographic. I'll admit to that. Like I liked the game, I liked the style. There was very little I didn't like about it, and so it was worth it to me.
They hooked you line and sinker.
Yes, but so the reason why you would do deluxe edition is because basically you're getting one season free because it's $40 for the DLC and then $10 per season. So if you got the deluxe edition, you get all the fancy stuff that comes with it, and you get the DLC for basically $10 cheaper.
And you get some nice cosmetic stuff.
It'd be nice if they bundled in the other DLCs to bring new people in and catch them up.
I mean, there is currently what you can do is it's actually pretty cheap for DLCs now. Like they do have consistent sales for all the older DLCs where you can get, I believe, so there's 3 DLCs currently that you can get if I'm remembering right, Jordan, because
There's Forsaken and Shadowkeep. If you buy Forsaken, you get the previous 2 that were before it, which are the Warmind DLC and the Curse of Osiris DLC.
I thought those
Are you
two
looking
were
at that right now? I
Alright.
thought, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
they're basically about to be non-existent.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's the other thing with Beyond Light is they're actually. So this is why I was really hoping Destiny 2 would kind of end and Destiny 3 would exist because I wanted them to build it on a new engine because we were running out of space. And what they've done is they've consolidated that space and they're getting rid of a bunch of planets.
They're getting rid of Mars, Titan, Io, and Mercury. Which Titan and Io were part of the base game. Mars came in with the Warmind DLC, and Mercury came in with the Curse of Osiris DLC.
Yeah. And so
That's one of the dangers of games as a live service is content disappears forever.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm not too happy about is, and another thing they're doing is they're going to be vaulting some stuff, which basically means you won't be able to get it ever again.
they might release it again later on at a different style or a different power level.
Yes, but there's no guarantee of that.
Yeah, but I mean, the flip side is, so I see this as 2 sides of, one side I'm annoyed of because I have everything and it's like, oh, now I can't play Escalation Protocol or I can't do these things that I love to do in the game. But the flip side is you get a lot of new content that keeps the game fresh. And if you make it good enough, it has to be good enough. That's the problem. If they screw up, that's a big deal. But if they make the content good and if they make everything that comes to be better than what it's been, then all of a sudden you're getting rid of stuff that no one really wants to care about anymore, and you're putting in stuff that people will really get attached to.
Very true. And I forgot where my train of thought was going. Never mind.
So they're using FOMO basically, and for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's an acronym which stands for fear of missing out. And when I don't know, games, whatever, any company basically, even when McDonald's has their monopoly and it's like you could win, whatever their sweepstakes is, even that is kind of FOMO, fear of missing out, and it's gross, and I don't like that it makes me want to do it.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't like Destiny did take that into account though. Something that I will say based off what I've read from the devs is, or developers, to those who don't know what devs means. The devs have promised, because currently the season pass and what each season happens, it's a lot of fear missing out, honestly. A lot of events happen in those seasons, and once it's gone, it's gone. You can't do that unless you were in the season.
Yeah.
And I don't think if things rotate seasonally, like Halloween events, for example, if they explicitly say that they're going to do it next year, but they're going to get rid of it between.
No, they do have things like that. Like right now, the Festival of the Lost is going on, which is their like Halloween event thing, and then they have one for Christmas.
and that's perfectly fine. That's fun.
Yeah,
But
both of those events are very enjoyable, and I love them very much.
But
they have to be
seasons,
clear about it coming back.
Ooh.
yeah, seasons are different for Destiny 2 though. Seasons are like the season pass that you see in like Fortnite or Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's a cosmetic grind, but it also is kind of an exotic grind too.
That is just, to me, gamer poison.
So yes, I agree with you. And it also they've done this thing where it ties into the story, the overall arching story of Destiny. However, the devs, this is what I was trying to get at. They've taken into account what people don't like because there was a big backlash. I believe it was season 2. Me and Jordan played all of season 1 last year this last year after Shadowkeep came out.
It was
And
season
then
3 we stopped playing, bud.
oh, okay. So we played season 1, season 2, and then season 3
season
came
3
out.
came out, and it was the Warmind. It was one that's focused around the Warmind Rasputin, and what got me was having to just grind away at my power level to get back up to where, because John and I were at the top. We were at the top of the power level that you could get without basically putting in hundreds upon hundreds of hours, basically playing the game all day, every day, and grinding away the last few itty bitty bits of power level that you honestly had to do astronomically large amount of things to do. So what got me is we had ground our way up there, we had gotten there, and we were like, oh, cool, yeah. And then new season starts, power level goes up, and it's a slog. It is an absolute slog to get yourself powered up once again.
What I didn't like about it was instead of having there was this like in previous seasons there was just this type of strike or like quest you could go on and do, and you just had a bunch of people go in and you fought, and you could keep on doing this over and over and over again. Instead, they changed it that season to be a public event that you could participate in. And I think that's so much harder to grind through because it's not as
You have
like
to pray that there are
story-driven.
other people there to help you, especially at the start of the season when your power
Yeah,
level is like lower than what the game recommends it to be to do that season stuff. And it's like, well, it's kind of dumb.
and so the devs have promised that yes, we are going to be changing how the seasons work. We're going to change the fear of missing out aspect, but they can't do it instantly because they've already programmed and built up all this content, and that would cause so many problems if they had to go in and change it all.
Which is why they should have just made Destiny 3.
Well, I mean, yeah. Though on the flip side, forcing people to buy another like game is also a little annoying in the principle of like you must keep on building a new game instead of just making your current game better.
You could do something like if you own Destiny 2, then have a discounted version of Destiny 3.
Yeah, but
if you're already going to pay $40 for an expansion, you could just pay $40 for a new game if you already have Destiny 2.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying like one's better than the other, but there's just realities of you got to look at different things for how the companies operate, and there's reasons why they do it. And I mean, Destiny, I think it's cool that they have these expansions that you get the game and you buy, like after expansion comes out, the previous expansions go on pretty hard sale. Like they consistently stay that way too, and it's a good deal for someone new coming in to just you can catch up and everything, and it's not like I paid $70 for all my expansions that I got whenever I first started, which means basically I paid the same price that you would have had to pay year one for the full game.
Yep. I see those sales and I'm tempted every time, even though I still haven't even finished Warmind. I have to keep reminding myself I'm not even there. Why am I tempted to buy this?
I mean, I bought everything because I just like it, but
I like it, to an extent as well, but I have to force myself to, to keep a pace.
Yeah, and also we've already said this before, Shane, but if you need help with that, me and Jordan are up for helping you complete storyline.
It's not hard, is it?
No, it's just
not really.
If you have people to do it with, it's more fun, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Is this built around multiple people going through it?
No, it's just you. But multiple people, it's just like it's fun to experience the storyline and go through it all.
The cutscenes will show just you.
So it's a little bit immersion breaking, but
Teeny bit.
A tiny bit.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
they've said they're addressing all of these issues in the new expansion to circle back.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be addressed immediately in the new expansion, but they said that
They
they're
are
going to
working
try
on
and
it.
address them. Yeah, they're working on it.
That's
The other interesting thing is when they announced this new expansion, they didn't just announce this expansion. They announced the next 3 years of expansions.
That's risky.
So they've committed to 3 years more of Destiny 2 at bare minimum with new content.
That's really risky.
Yeah.
3 years feels like about as much as you should ever commit to.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
which
you're just digging a hole that you might not be able to climb out of.
I like it because it keeps the story going, personally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
full trilogies,
it's you get to commit to this and you get to like fully immerse yourself in this universe. Like the lore is something that I love about Destiny, because like you learn and there's so much information and it's almost overwhelming, but you don't have to know it all. You just can know the bare minimum and you can still enjoy it all.
The lore is something I would like to like, but I feel like the game doesn't let me. It just throws a bunch of monsters at you and says, shoot them, go.
It is a little annoying with the looter shooter mechanics to a certain degree. At least in my experience with it. But I feel like that's just you have trade-offs in any game. Like I don't particularly like Borderlands like you guys do. But and that's looter shooter as well. But you guys love Borderlands and the story and everything in it.
And that's purely because I spend the bare minimum of time going through my inventory.
Very true.
I don't think about the guns I'm using any harder than, what element is this? What is it, a rifle or a automatic? That's basically
Yeah.
my entire thought process. And
I mean,
is the number bigger?
I mean, you can
Mhm.
do that with Destiny too as well.
Yeah, you don't have to really go into it. I typically just like what I like to do, and
Okay,
this
I gotta
is
step out for just a second.
all right. What I like to do with Destiny 2 is I get one exotic gun I love, and maybe I have 1 or 2 guns on my secondary that are also ones I like. And I'll just continue to upgrade that one gun with new power level, because you can infuse the guns, right? You can take the newest level guns and just be like, nope, I don't like this gun. I'm going to put it power level into this gun. So it's competitive still.
But even that kind of has its problems because you have to get a certain item in order to masterwork it, and the way to get the masterwork might be something you don't want to do, or
I mean,
it's
yeah.
entirely random, so you don't even know if you can ever get it.
Well, I mean, to infuse, all you need to do is get a gun that's better than what you currently have and say, I want to infuse this gun into this gun, and it does it.
Well, sure, you can make the number go up, but you can't masterwork it. You
Yeah,
can't get
no, master working is there's luckiness involved with that, but I don't know. I have my gripes with Destiny, but it's just such a good game, and the developers clearly care about it. Is the other thing.
If they're willing to throw 3 years to it, then yeah, that does show care.
So I'm willing to give it benefit of the doubt for the majority of what I see. But
Well,
yeah, so that's coming.
I think we're about pretty close to a full hour, actually.
Yeah, I'd say we're probably close to that too. I suppose anything closing with Destiny 2 is just it's coming out November 10th, and they delayed it a few months to make sure everything was really polished for the new release, because it was supposed to originally come out in September.
A lot of things have been delayed. That's just sort of the way things are these days.
That's just the COVID life that we live.
It's fine.
Yeah, no, it could be a lot worse.
Not the state of everything, but having your game delayed a month is not that big a deal.
Yeah, we'll cover seasonal stuff, I guess, next time.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll just mention is Overwatch 2 has an official release date, which I'm looking forward to personally.
Next year?
Yeah, it comes out next year whenever BlizzCon happens.
When is BlizzCon?
So BlizzCon got pushed back to being online, and BlizzCon's from the 19th through the 21st, and Overwatch 2 official release is the 19th of 2020 February. Or 2021 February.
Not too bad.
Nope. I am hoping that my biggest fear right now is, so I was like, oh sweet, like I was thinking BlizzCon would happen in like November December timeframe, and then I could enjoy playing Overwatch 2. And I was really worried about the fact that everything would overlap with Destiny 2 being coming out in November, and then Halo Infinite was supposed to come out November December timeframe, and now Halo Infinite's pushed back. We don't know when that's getting released, and I'm really hoping it doesn't get released around February because I want to be able to fully invest into Destiny 2 and then invest into Overwatch and then invest into Halo Infinite.
Isn't it nice to have such first world problems?
I mean, yeah, no, it's like there's too many video games that we really want to play, but it's just that's my personal. I would like it if that could be a thing.
Yeah, I totally get that.
But it's like, man, I'm gonna have a really good gaming PC forever. Like, it's the one downside. Is like, oh man, November 5th, I'm not gonna have a full new gaming rig. November 5th, I'll have the graphics card ideally if I can get that like day one. But that's gonna be all I have.
But your current computer runs Destiny 2 just fine, right?
Yeah, it's just the matter of, oh man, it'd be cool if I could just like day one be recording because I can't stream and play Destiny 2. I can only play Destiny 2.
Gotcha.
And so it'd be really cool if I could record that and also have it at like highest graphics, highest FPS, everything. So yeah, I mean, I feel like everything we talk about in this podcast is first world problem in this whole time frame. So
Yep. So just to be clear, we know they're all first world problems. It's just that's our life. That's what interests us.
yep, it's we live in a pretty nice world where we get to talk about computer components and video games. So, all right, that's everything I have to cover. Anything else you want to close out with, Shane?
Nope.
All right. Well, with that, we want to thank you for listening to the Gamers Process Universe podcast. And we hope to make this a consistent weekly thing, maybe, or we'll just see as things come out and we have stuff to talk about. I'm sure we have a lot more things that people can bring to our attention and passions that people have to enjoy. So,
And maybe we'll have different people on from time to time.
Very true.
Oh, here's another topic for next week. How cool is Titanfall 2 and how much does it suck about how its release date coincided with Battlefield and Call of Duty?
I have
oh
many
yeah,
words to
that's
speak on this fact.
we can.
Yeah, let's cover that next week.
Yeah, that sounds good. We've all been playing a lot of Titanfall 2 recently, so that sounds like a good
And
plan
how
to me.
much we want a third one,
I mean, that's I've heard rumors
or
that
or
third
at
one is
least
potential.
Apex
another campaign.
We will continue this all next time. So thanks for listening, everyone, and I hope everyone had a great time.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
I will see y'all next week.
Bye.
Peace out.
Bye.